What is up, everybody? Welcome into the post-game edition of Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. He is Ryan Talbot, back there in Olean. I am inside Highmark Stadium. Oh, wow. I got all messed up here, Ryan. I got the audio all messed. Can you hear me? Is this thing on?
No, it's a little bit better now. Way better now. I was just kind of wondering.
Right.
I'm like, yeah.
Let's do that again. Let's try that again. Welcome to Shout, a post-game edition of the podcast. The Bills improved to 9-2, taking out the rival Kansas City Chiefs 30-21 here inside Highmark Stadium. Ryan Talbot, you know what Mystic Mac used to say back in the day, Conor McGregor, I predict these things. 21 was my prediction. Tyler Bass, you're killing me, man. I had the prediction on the nose, if not for the missed extra point. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. You predicted pretty much the score. I said I think this is going to be a Curtis Samuel game, and he made me pretty proud in terms of that prediction. So big dubs for us, and obviously a big win for the Bills here tonight.
So what played out in this game was exactly what I thought was going to happen. I thought that they were going to make it really hard on the Bills running the football, which it was all night long. I think I put it in my final story. It was something like 19 carries for 40-something yards between the backs. I think it was close to 60 yards between the backs, 2.5 yards per carry. It was absolutely difficult for the Bills to run. I think Mike Catalana put out a stat at one point, Ryan. They had a 1 or 2 yard run on first down on 6 of their first 7 runs on first down. It was really tough sledding out there, but the Bills stayed with it, right? Their defense held up. And in a game like this, your defense has to come up with stops as your offense is trying to figure things out. They came up with stops. They forced some punts. No team scored in the third quarter. And when the Bills got it back in the fourth, Josh Allen stepped up. He found a way to make some plays, and then obviously we're going to get to the big play in the fourth quarter, end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so first of all, kudos to Kansas City in that run defense. It is as legit as it comes. They were as good as advertised. James Cook deserves credit for his touchdown run where he bounced off of 3 defenders, but for the most part, yards were really hard to come by. Ty Johnson had 2 nice runs, but like I said, they were locking the Bills down. Buffalo found ways to win, but they put themselves in a bad spot, Matt. 3rd and long over and over and over again. And, Buffalo found a way to win. Don't get me wrong, but that's usually a recipe for disaster.
I'm sorry. I got to put this comment in here.
Yeah.
Phil Lehman, Matt Strip is unmatched. Breaking out the dad from Home Alone look. Gotta love it. Dude, I'm going to throw this over the arm and just start running through the tunnels here. You look just like the scene out of Home Alone 1 when they're getting late for the plane. My wife actually picked this out, so shout out to Caitlin back at home. But let's get into the biggest play of this game. And right now, at this stage of the season, Ryan, the biggest play of the season, Josh Allen, late in the fourth quarter. It's a 4th and 2 at the 26-yard line, and it's decision time. I tweeted it out. I put it out on Blue Sky. I did the double up on both platforms, as I think both of us did throughout the game today. And you were in a spot if you're Sean McDermott. You can either send out Tyler Bass, who, is a couple games removed from that big 61-yard game-winning field goal, or you can lean into your all-pro MVP hopeful quarterback Josh Allen on 4th and 2, and that's exactly what Sean McDermott decided to do. So I think you got to give him some props. A little bit of questionable decision making earlier in the game with the challenge on the out of bounds play. We could talk about that later in the show. But on that play, it just felt like if you go for a field goal, even if Tyler Bass makes that field goal, Ryan, it feels like you're pushing all of the momentum back to the Kansas City Chiefs, down 5 late in the fourth quarter to go down the field and score a touchdown. They've played this movie before, right, Ryan? They've played this movie out before. They knew they had to score a touchdown. So Josh Allen goes back to pass, fakes it to the back, decides, hey, I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to get out in space, get the 2 yards myself, and then, by the way, he gets out in space and just absolutely dusts a couple of would-be tacklers, bowls over a guy at the goal line. It was one of those truly sensational moments of Josh Allen's career against the Chiefs. And I get it. It's a regular season win to get you to 9-2. They didn't win the Super Bowl today. Von Miller said that after the game. But it was a massive moment the Bills extend to a 6-game winning streak and vanquish the previously undefeated Chiefs. They don't have a tough schedule the rest of the way, Ryan. This could have been the game that spoils, hypothetically, their perfect season. This was a huge performance with a Chiefs team that was game all the way through this game.
Yeah, you're right. You look at the Chiefs' remaining schedule, and I don't want to say it's a cakewalk, but there's some very advantageous matchups on their schedule. So for Buffalo, though, they knew that 4th and 2, up by 2, a field goal wasn't enough. They needed to go for it. They needed to be aggressive in that moment, and they dialed up a great play. I'll have to go back and watch the all 22 of that. At first glance, it certainly looked like Ty Johnson was open if he really wanted to throw it to him out in the flat to pick up the first down, but Allen absolutely made the right call using his legs, using his feet, as you mentioned. Bounced off of about 3 Chiefs defenders, and I think Brian Cook was the last guy in the end zone as he kind of steamrolled his way in. Huge play. Once they went up 9 there with, around the 2-minute warning, you knew that was going to hold. You had a good feeling about it, and then the defense kind of finished off the job, which we can talk a little bit more about them here in a few minutes.
Mark Bouchard, one of our insiders. Josh Allen, angry runs winner this week on Good Morning Football tomorrow. James Cook had it last week. Could Josh Allen possibly get it this week? And I think that play at the goal line, to run over, I believe it was the safety there at the end of the play. The moment what was on the line in this game, absolutely huge moment for Josh Allen in this game. All right. We got to get to a little housekeeping. We're 6.5 minutes into this one. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. X, Facebook, wherever you're watching. On YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We really appreciate that. We're brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. 'Tis the season to save on groceries and all of your holiday gifts. Christmas bonus is underway at Tops Friendly Markets. Shop at Tops and save $10 at all your other favorite stores and restaurants. With over 25 gift cards to choose from, there's something for everyone on your list. And don't forget to treat yourself to some extra savings too. Be Santa's biggest little helper with Christmas bonus from Tops and get a complete list of available gift card savings. Topsmarkets.com/Christmas bonus. Ryan, the Bills weren't able to get a consistent running game going today, but when they needed James Cook in the red zone, he delivered with a couple of more touchdown runs early in this game. And I felt one of the keys, we talked about it a little bit going into the game, was you got to stick with the run, as painful as it could kind of be, right? Like some of those runs are real bloody runs, 1, 2, 3 yards. And it could be easy for Joe Brady over the course of the game to say, you know what, screw this, go into empty set. We're going to start winging it. We're going to start doing all kinds of crazy things. And I actually even posted at one point of the game, the Bills got to get a little bit more aggressive, which I thought you saw them do on their final 2 drives. We'll get more into that. But across the board, guys stepped up in the receiver room, and it started with Amari Cooper coming out in the first half, establishing the tone, making big-time catches. The one on the left sideline where he kind of one-handed it, it was a nice kind of like a dip-in move to the corner, and then he kind of opened up a little separation, and it came into his injured hand. He makes the catch, sets up the first Cook touchdown, and then on the second Cook touchdown, it was a 2nd and 10, I believe. Allen puts it up over, and it was a perfect angle to me up in the press box. And as the ball is coming towards Cooper, he did not even locate it yet. Downplayed it at his locker after the game, of course. It wasn't that hard of a catch. It looked like the degree of difficulty was off the charts from the press box because it was coming at an awkward angle. So he had to kind of divert from the path that he was running, make the catch, and then get both feet in bounds. He makes it, sets up those first 2 scores. If he doesn't make those first 2 catches, maybe those drives end in field goals instead of touchdowns. Huge performance for Amari Cooper dealing with that wrist injury.
Yeah, that first Cooper catch came right after the Taylor Rapp interception on the opening drive. And that was, again, it was a 3rd and long play. Josh Allen throws it up, 30-yard grab, one-handed catch. They might not get points out of it at all had he not made that grab. And then the double move downfield, like you said, the level of difficulty was very impressive. The fact that he was able to keep that first foot down upon catching it, because the Chiefs wanted to review that. Those were his only 2 catches of the day, but they were huge catches in this game because they both led to points on the board. And as we saw, this game was going down to the wire as we kind of expected. And sure enough, the Bills held on by 9. But without Cooper and those 2 grabs, who knows how this game plays out.
So the Bills, I want to get to let's talk about the other receivers too before we shift over to the defense. Curtis Samuel, you talked about him as being a key player to watch in this game. And last week it was 8 targets. He ended up with 4 catches. This week, 6 targets, 5 grabs, 58 yards, and that really critical touchdown to get the Bills on the board early in the fourth quarter. He just was a great safety blanket for Josh Allen today. I thought Khalil Shakir played about as tough of a game as he's played in his career. He took a shot over the middle where it looks like he got hit in the ribs or the hip. Something was funny. He took an absolute shot, hung onto the ball on a 3rd down, huge conversion. He goes 8 for 70 yards. Really gritty performance for him today. And even Dawson Knox, it wasn't a splashy stat line. Neither was it for Mac Hollins, but both guys found a way to make a play when they were called upon. 4 catches on 6 targets for Knox, 2 for 2 for Hollins. And then Zach Davidson, Ryan Talbot, card-carrying member of the Zach Davidson fan club. He gets his first NFL catch today as well.
Yeah, it was cool seeing the ball get spread out and distributed that way. Starting out with Curtis Samuel, man, the way that he was, made plays on the ball, kept his balance on his touchdown, drawing the pass interference penalty downfield where he almost still came up with a one-hand grab. He's been playing through a lot of injuries, and the way that he stepped up tonight played a big factor in the outcome of this game. Josh Allen even acknowledged after the game there were a few plays that he wanted back because he saw in the video post-game, there he is running open on that play. I could have hit him for a sizable gain, but Samuel stepped up. No shock that Khalil Shakir ends up being the leading receiver for the team in this game. That catch over the middle late where he took the hit to the back on, I believe it was a 3rd and 9 play, and he got just enough to move the chains. That just shows the toughness. Earlier in the game, though, he takes a short pass and makes 3 guys miss and gains about 30. It's just what we've come to expect out of Khalil Shakir in this passing game. You mentioned Knox in terms of he had a nice play downfield for this team. Mac Hollins, though, too, on that final drive, a big catch where the Bills needed to be aggressive. He caught the ball. He moved the chains, kept that drive alive where the Bills were able to drain a lot of time off that clock.
A couple of numbers from Bills PR put out. In the Bills' 30-21 win, Josh Allen timed the team record for total touchdowns, 244, and moved into second in rushing touchdowns at 58 behind Thurman Thomas. The Bills became the only team in the NFL with 4 wins over Patrick Mahomes. The Bills became the first team since 2022 to score 30 on KC. That was a crazy stat. I think it was like 44 straight games or something in that department. I don't have the exact one off the top of my head where the Chiefs have held teams to under 28 points. That is a massive stat and accomplishment for this team. And Ryan, it could have been more. As we were talking pregame, I was talking with Matt Beauvais and Jay Skursky from the Buffalo News, and we were talking about the game. I was like, I really feel like the Bills are going to win in dominant fashion. I know I picked a 10-point win, but it felt even better pregame. And if Josh Allen doesn't throw that kind of funky interception late in the second quarter and the Chiefs turn around and, of course, they get 7 points off of it, I think we're talking about a much more lopsided game. Right now, if you're looking at these two teams, I know they have one more win, the Chiefs do, but I think the Bills are in a class of their own in the AFC. And it's kind of weird to say because the Baltimore Ravens beat them so handily in week 4. But what happened in Pittsburgh today has really kind of turned the tide in this conference right now. The Steelers are surging, and I think the Buffalo Bills are as good of a team in the NFL. And Brian Allman, one of our insiders, says, we want Detroit. Be careful what you ask for. That's a
Whoa. I don't know. I mean, Detroit is playing at an elite level, but this week, and I get it who they played this week, scoring at will against them, but they are a great team on both sides of the ball. They came back the week before this against the Texans. They can just find ways to win. That is by far Buffalo's toughest matchup left on this schedule. And you look at the slate coming up, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but 49ers have a letdown late against the Seahawks. The Rams go down to the wire, but win against the Patriots today. No, those are 2 of the next 3 games, and you suddenly feel very good about them because, as you said, the Bills are playing at such a high level right now. And it was a regular season game. The multiple Bills said it, Matt. This wasn't the Super Bowl. It wasn't a playoff win. But to put up 30 points in this game without your starting right tackle, Spencer Brown, without your rookie wide receiver, Keon Coleman, again, and without your number 1 tight end, Dalton Kincaid, I think the Bills have to feel really good about that, knowing that, they're those guys, fully anticipate will be back for a playoff run. You can't predict future injuries, obviously, but you expect them there in the playoffs. If you run into the Chiefs again, those are just more weapons that the Chiefs are going to have to try to factor against and play against. And the Bills are in a good spot because guys stepped up today, and they just have more guys waiting in the wings if they do meet up again in January.
And there's two guys in this game that I think you got to call out in a huge game against a Super Bowl contender. Guys that, like, when you're talking about Brandon Beane's resume, these kinds of guys very often don't get mentioned. But I feel like Ryan Vandermark coming in and starting in this spot at right tackle, having the game that he had today. I mean, he was emotional in his locker room, talking about what it was going to be like to go hang out with his family after this game and talking to his dad, who he said was going to be absolutely excited for the way that he came out and played. And you could hear in the way that his teammates talked about him, the level of confidence because of the work that he does. I mean, Dawson Knox said, they're on the sideline, they're going over all the pictures on the iPad, and Ryan Vandermark is right in there knowing exactly what his assignment is, what they have to do on the next series. That's huge. And on the defensive side of the ball, Cam Lewis with a couple of huge plays in that dime roll in the second half. Guys that, like, undrafted guys that, Brandon Beane plucked off of, for Cam Lewis, he was an undrafted free agent signing. Ryan Vandermark came over off waivers, I believe, from the Colts. Those are just little moves that, like, over the course of time, build out your roster in a way that when a guy does go down and you're dealing with these injuries, like Spencer Brown not playing today, that's huge to have.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back and rewatch the game. There's one snap in my mind where actually Vandermark got blown back on the play by George Karlaftis, but Karlaftis then kicked inside, and Vandermark, to his credit, came back, pushed him to the inside, allowed Allen to roll to his right. I can't remember if he ran on that play or if he rolled to the right and made a connection down the field, but either way, it ended up being a net positive play for the Bills. But to have this guy step up and play, huge snaps at right tackle, and then for a few snaps when Deion Dawkins went down, have to flip over to left. It just shows you the versatility, the talent, the ability that he has. And I'm glad you mentioned Cam Lewis. I mean, I know he wasn't the biggest factor on defense because that would go to Terrell Bernard, but he was outstanding today. Early in the game, there was a short pass to Travis Kelce on a third down play. He immediately came in, grabbed him by the leg, tackled him before it could turn into anything of a sizable gain to maybe make the Chiefs think about going for it. On that last drive, Ryan catches the ball, and he's there immediately to tackle him, keep him in bounds, have that clock running. On the play after that, they target Ryan again downfield, and Cam Lewis jumps the route and almost picks it off. It's that next man up mentality. Cam Lewis, won a key role on this team out of camp this season, and he looked the part against, a team that's been the Achilles heel of the Bills in January. Had a huge game for this Bills defense.
If you're watching on YouTube right now, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe as well. We'll be with you for probably another 20 minutes or so. It's a big time post-game edition. We got some super chats going on. If you want to get your comment on the screen, send a super chat along. We'll get them up there. Finally, the D-line got pressure and got in Mahomes' face, and Mahomes must have thought, what's this? I usually have all day to throw against the Bills. Thanks, Justin, for that one. And I think that's a great point. I thought consistently throughout the game, of course, there was a couple of touchdown drives where you would have liked the Bills to put up a little bit more fight. But I would say for the most part, over the course of the game, you look at the possessions in this game, interception, punt. So you start the game off with two non-scoring drives as a defense. That's all you can ask. The Bills score early. They get up early. That's how you kind of enter this game hoping for it. It's a touchdown, then a punt, and then a touchdown before halftime. And then it goes punt, touchdown, interception in the second half. This defense made a lot of big plays in this game. I was really impressed with, of course, Taylor Rep gets that interception on the first drive. That was Daquan Jones putting the hit on Patrick Mahomes, a guy that we've been talking a lot about all season, needing a little bit more from him. I thought Ed Oliver was playing really inspired football today. Reggie is feeling it too. He's like, yeah, Daquan killed it. He killed it on that play. It's all good, Reggie. I love it. And also Greg Rousseau, who continues to make big play after big play. I know Von Miller got the credit for the sack, but that was all Greg Rousseau forcing Patrick Mahomes off his spot. And I thought across the board, they really delivered. And I got to say, Ryan, I loved AJ Epinessa's attitude in the post-game locker room. A couple of us asked him about what was going on in those unnecessary roughness penalties. That seems so out of character. He's like, they were trying to set a tone. They were trying to be physical with me. And we decided that we're not going to let them push us around. We're not going to be bullied. We are going to answer the bell. I'm sure if you're Sean McDermott, you don't like the fact that you're taking 2 15-yard penalties there, but you love the fact that AJ Epinesa is coming in and defending his guy and Dorian Williams, who took a tough hit on the one play. And the other one was like putting your chest out. I'm here. I'm going to be here all day. We're going to push back and forth. You push us. We're going to push back. That was the attitude on both sides of the ball today for the Bills. And I think it really worked out for them.
Yeah, the Bills have that dog mentality. Shout out Reggie, who
ooh, look at you with the transition.
Anytime he sees a stinking animal on TV, he starts getting after it like they're actually here. Drives me nuts. Biggest pet peeve of Reg. But for the Bills, no, this was a game where the defensive line stepped up. We have said how many times that they need a big game from the defensive line, and they know showing those moments. They don't get any pressure. They sent some pressure. Terrell Bernard with a sack early on in the game, but Von Miller gets a sack. Ed Oliver gets a lot of pressure, gets a few hits on Patrick Mahomes in this game. You mentioned Jones. Austin Johnson, I feel like, had some pressure early on too. Epinesa with a batted ball. You name it, across the board, they were making plays on that D-line, and that's what they're going to need come January if they want to be able to knock off this Chiefs team, if they want to be able to beat a Ravens team if they run into them. Some of these tougher teams, I know the Ravens dropped another one today, but those are the types of teams that the Bills, I feel like, would have the most trouble with come the playoffs. And if they can get that D-line playing at this level come January, they're going to be a tough team to beat, Matt.
Thank you so much for joining us on this late Sunday evening. I know there's a Sunday night football game going on right now between the Chargers and the Bengals that I'm sure Bills fans are excited about, but we got over 2,300 people watching live across all platforms here on a Sunday night. We're hanging out talking about the Bills' 30-21 win over the Kansas City Chiefs. You mentioned Terrell Bernard coming out and having an absolutely massive performance, coming up with his first sack of the season, icing the game with the interception down the stretch. I thought he played a phenomenal game and really was frustrated on one of the touchdowns, one of the Noah Gray touchdowns, where I think it was a little bit of a miscommunication. I think he wanted, whether it be Taron Johnson or the outside boundary corner, to kind of shift back in underneath to kind of feed in there on the zone coverage. It didn't happen. They gave up the touchdown. But if you want to talk about a huge performance and getting a guy back that you didn't have in this matchup last year, man, Terrell Bernard showed up huge for them today.
Big time. And I know exactly the play you're talking about. I believe he was communicating with Taron Johnson on that play. We'll have to look back at it and maybe ask them about it. But it's fitting that Buffalo's captains closed the door on Kansas City on Sunday. Obviously, Bernard had a huge sack early on in the game on a third down play, but to intercept that 4th and 13 pass in the middle of the field where Mahomes tried to throw it across his body, jumps the route, picks it off, seals the game. It just, it's fitting. He's this leader of the defense. He's stepped up time and time again, and you're right. He was one of the biggest reasons why they didn't get past the Chiefs last season. And I truly do believe the Bills win that game. Had they had a healthy Terrell Bernard in that matchup. Instead, they had A.J. Klein. They were banged up. They were hurting. And the drop-off between those two guys is so significant, you can't even begin to describe it. You there still?
I'm still there.
Okay.
Just testing you, dude. I was looking at some tweets, some comments. We got a lot going on, Ryan. We got 2,300 people watching across all platforms. We got Heather checking in. Go Bills. Love from Riyadi with the super chat. Thank you so much. Adrian with another super chat. Is Elam cornerback 4 now? So that's a good question, and I'm glad you bring that up, Adrian. To me, the inactivation of Elam today had a lot to do with it being a numbers game. Keon Coleman being out, you have 6 wide receivers on the active roster right now, but with Coleman being down and Reggie Gilliam returning, he missed last week. Dalton Kincaid being down, you needed some more depth there at that position. So I think Gilliam, basically you had him there, of course, to play the fullback role, but also to be some depth at tight end, knowing that Zach Davison was up in his first NFL game. Jamarcus Ingram has that versatility to play not only boundary corner, but he can play slot and he can also play in that dime. So I think, to me, it's just the versatility of Ingram's game that slots him up over Elam in a situation like this. I'm not overreacting to it too much because I thought Elam played pretty well when he was forced to play a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think the Bills also wanted to go heavy on the D-line, which ended up paying off for them, working out nicely. We've already talked about the pressure from the pass rush, but they were pretty good in run defense too, minus a big run by Kareem Hunt later in that game. So a lot of it had to do with the personnel packages, what they were trying to do. Elam, when he was called upon, when he had to start a few weeks ago, I thought he played well, but versatility matters to this team. It's why a few weeks ago, they moved on from Mike Edwards. Edwards was frustrated he couldn't get on the field, and it was because of a guy like Cam Lewis. Now, when you're looking at the matchups, you look at Jamarcus Ingram and the versatility that he brings as that depth cornerback position, and that leads to him being a little bit favored in a matchup like this over Kaiir Elam when you have to make a tough decision on who to make inactive. So don't read too much into it. I can't sit here and say Elam's a big part of their future plans. It's just been kind of a miscast player for a few seasons now, but when he's gotten the opportunities, he has played well. I don't know where that's going to go down the road, but right now Ingram just brings more versatility to this team.
A little bit of everything for the Bills today. The 2 sacks we mentioned, Von Miller, Bernard. They had 2, 4, 6, 7 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, 5 pass deflections. This was a complete defensive performance against a team that I know that the Chiefs haven't been, killing it on offense over the course of this season. Patrick Mahomes has been very putting the ball in jeopardy quite a bit. He gets, turned over twice today in a big way, but it's still an offense that has playmakers. I mean, one of the biggest storylines of this game for me, I know Xavier Worthy ends up going 4 for 61 and a touchdown. The Bills eliminated Travis Kelce from this game, Ryan. He went 2 catches for 8 yards. That was, to me, one of the biggest stories. Travis Kelce, no matter what, has had pretty big games against them. There's a couple outlier games, but for the most part has found a way to impact games against the Bills over the course of his career. The Bills didn't let him do that today. And I think if you were listening to a lot of the national shows going into it, that was the big question. How are they going to defend against Kelce, who's been upwards of like 10, 12, 14 targets a game over the last month? He comes into this game and he is targeted 4 times. He comes away with 2 catches for 8 yards.
And it was huge because, as you mentioned, early on this season, Kelce wasn't a factor in the passing game more times than not. But the last 3 weeks, he's been getting double-digit targets. He's been a big factor. Looked like the Travis Kelce of old. And in this matchup against the Bills, they just took him out of the game. He was a non-factor. Now, to the credit of Patrick Mahomes, Noah Gray got involved. He had some other guys get involved in that passing arsenal, but Travis Kelce, a guy that has always been someone that has made the big play, whether it's a touchdown, whether it's the first down, putting them up in advantageous situations. He was a complete non-factor against Buffalo tonight.
Got a super chat here from Cass, and I'm going to have to lean on you, Ryan, because I did not watch the broadcast, obviously, and didn't see this. What was the deal with Josh Allen looking upset when in the last-minute timeout was called? Difference of opinion between Josh and Coach McDermott. Did you notice that? Did you think that was the case?
I didn't actually notice that. So I'm going to now, like, as soon as I saw that super chat come up, I'm like, man, I'm going to go back and rewatch that now for the final timeout that was called to see what Allen was so upset about. It could be a lot of things. I mean, the last one I can think about, though, was there one after the delay?
Well, there was a timeout before the Allen scramble, but that was by Kansas City. That wasn't right. That wasn't by Sean McDermott. So maybe he was upset that the Bills didn't get a playoff, but it felt like I wouldn't mind the timeout in that situation, but that might not be what he's talking about.
Right. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch, and I will answer. Yeah, I'll have to
We'll mention it on next week's show. We'll mention it on next week's show. Go back and look through it, or maybe we'll be able to maybe ask. We won't talk to Josh Allen next week because it's the bye week. But next time we do, we'll be sure to ask about it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Ryan, big news. It's not breaking. It's already been out for a while, but we're coming back to Turning Stone Resort Casino. What's up, everybody? Matt Parrino here with Ryan Talbot. We're the host of the Shout Buffalo Bills Football Podcast, and we have some big news. We're coming back to Turning Stone Resort Casino. That's right, New York Rec and Social Club, November 30th, the night before the Bills host the San Francisco 49ers. It is going to be a night of Bills football talking, food, everything, Ryan. We cannot wait.
That's right, Matt. Nobody travels like the Bills Mafia. Come out and join us for the podcast and hang out with us after. The event is open to the public. Guests must be 18 years or older. Come out and let's get after it.
It's going to be a live edition of Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. We're previewing Bills versus 49ers. See you then. I know we mentioned that go ahead.
No, I was going to say, another huge show. Joseph in the chat earlier tonight was mentioning Wingnuts and how packed it was and the crowd we brought in last night. Unbelievable show last night. Cannot wait until the 30th at Turning Stone. Looking forward to another big turnout from the Bills Mafia.
Yeah, listen, I even if you're going to the game on Sunday, if you can make the trip out to Verona, New York, it's about a 2-hour drive. And somebody's mentioned, what video? LOL. Because every time I play that video, for those that don't know, Ryan's usually caught off guard and we laugh about it after the fact. But that one, you were ready for that one, Ryan,
Ready.
Finally, after all these weeks. Make the drive out to Verona. Turning Stone Resort Casino is going to be a party all night long, the night before the Bills take on the 49ers. That is actually 13 days from today. So get it on your calendar, November 30th. We cannot wait. So, Ryan, I'm looking at these numbers. First of all, the Chiefs going 5 of 10 on third down as one of the best third down teams in the league going into this game. Massive for this Bills defense. The Bills finished with 366 total yards compared to 259 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you look at the red zone, listen, the Chiefs went 3 for 3 in the red zone, but they only got there 3 times. They scored on all 3 of them. I thought the Bills getting the takeaways when they did, I thought they did a pretty good job against their run game, holding them to 78 yards. This felt like a complete team victory. And another point on the run game for the Bills. I know it was tough on the running backs, but to finish in this game with 104 rushing yards and obviously another big-time performance on the ground by Josh Allen, huge.
No, unbelievable performance here by the Bills. And you know, they went into this thinking, let's win the time of possession battle. They did that. I think that's frustrating when you're Patrick Mahomes and you're trying to get this offense on track. They've looked better the last 2 weeks going into this game. But the Bills kind of kept the ball away and it worked to their advantage. I know it was a close game for the most part, but Buffalo's game plan worked here and the yardage wasn't there. Those were not very Mahomes-like stats at the end of the game. The touchdowns were obviously very Mahomes-like, but the yardage, not so much. The third down stops, the turnovers. So kudos to Bobby Babich in the game plan. And obviously Sean McDermott deserves praise for that too, because he had a big hand in how they were playing this. So this was a big time performance. Now come January, they're going to have to replicate this. If they run into KC again, this has been the story the last few years, winning the regular season, but then you can't beat them when it matters most. That said, very promising when you look at all the people on both sides of the ball that were out for Buffalo.
If you haven't signed up to become a Shout Buffalo Bills insider quite yet, now is the time. I know it's the bye week coming up, but you get a 2-week free trial. Will probably be a little bit light on the text. So maybe if you want to start after the bye week, that makes a lot of sense. But as we move and cruise into the last part of the season, you are going to want to be an insider. And today, Ryan Talbot was absolutely fire fingers on the insider text line, absolutely crushing it. 716-528-6727. That's the number to text to sign up. Like I said, it's a 2-week free trial, $3.99 a month after that. Text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give Carrie a call at 716-852-1234 or check out litrolaw.com. All right, here's something else, Ryan. You're looking at the standings right now, and obviously the Bills move one more game closer to the top seed in the AFC. You have the Kansas City Chiefs still sitting there atop at 9-1, Buffalo at 9-2 in the 2 seed, Pittsburgh at 8-2 with their big win today. Houston at 6-4, tops in a really bad South division. Then you have the Chargers at 6-3, battling with the Bengals tonight, sitting at 4-6. You probably want the Chargers to just kind of beat the Bengals, kind of push them down a little bit more. Baltimore at 7-4 in the 6th seed is absolutely wild. And I think a Denver team at 6-5, that's a really plucky team that's going to be, tough to play in January. Where do you think, projecting to the next couple of weeks, the ceiling is for the Bills? Do you think that the Chiefs, even despite the schedule that they have a little bit easier than most, the Bills can make a run here and maybe have a chance at the number 1 seed?
Never say never, but I think the ceiling for Buffalo is probably the number 2 seed. I think Kansas City, with the way their remaining schedule sits, knowing that the Bills probably don't run the table the rest of the way here, they would have to almost have that happen for them to claim that 1 seed. They'd have to have the Chiefs slip up once and run the table themselves. Not saying it's not possible, but the Bills do have some tough opponents. The 49ers and the Rams haven't looked great in recent weeks, but they're still tough teams. They have a lot of talent on those rosters. We already mentioned the Lions. And then you have some divisional battles. Who knows what the Jets are going to look like when they face off with them again. Another, last-second loss for New York as their season continues to unravel. And the Patriots, they're kind of a little bit of a fun watch right now with Drake May. They're a lot more entertaining than they have been with Jacoby Brissett. So those will be some tough matchups too, but I think the ceiling for Buffalo is the 2 seed. I'm not ruling out the 1 seed just yet. I just think if you're asking me right now, I'd say number 2 seed is the ceiling. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think the Chiefs have a lot of easy matchups, but I do also think that a game like this kind of shows some chinks in the armor for what's going on in Kansas City. I think offensively they've been a much more turnover heavy happy team this season, and I think defensively, like sure, they're really tough to run on, but I also think that there's advantages against some of the weaker players on their defense. Bills put up 30 today. I think they could have put up quite a bit more, and I still think the 1 seed's in play because I think there's a San Francisco team off the bye. Sean McDermott teams are so good there. The Rams are just not as good. They're playing up against the Eagles. Their wide receiver next week, their wide receivers can't stay healthy. I mean, every week I watch them, it's either Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp that seem to be banged up. And I just think the Chiefs are going to have some really tough divisional games over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to say the ceiling is the 1 seed. I'm going to leave the hope meter open a little bit for Bills fans.
No, I love that. And never say never. And some of the chat said the Chiefs still play the Texans, the Steelers, the Broncos, and Chargers. And, Texans, I'm not as sold on them, but the Steelers, the way they're playing right now, they're impressive. The defense is at an elite level right now. Russell Wilson, to his credit, there's a lot of things he doesn't do well anymore. He can't really scramble. He takes a lot of sacks, but man, those, the moon shots, those moon balls that he throws up are always on target. Always putting his team in an advantageous situation. So that'll be a tough one too. The Chiefs could slip up. They have had a lot of things break their way this season leading up to tonight's game against Buffalo. So maybe a few more bad breaks occur. 1 or 2 seed, obviously the bye week would certainly help Buffalo in come playoff time. But if they are the 2 seed, maybe you can avoid some of these other matchups that would give you some potential reason to worry.
One note on the Pittsburgh Steelers, watching that Ravens game before the Bills today in the media room, I think they should get a little bit more creative with how they use those quarterbacks. Like you saw late in the game, I really liked how Mike Tomlin went to Justin Fields, on a gotta have it, gonna run play, almost make that, put the defense in a bind. Like, what are you going to do if you run that RPO action with Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, whoever's in there, and Justin Fields? I think Russell Wilson is a liability in the red zone. He has been that ever since he's come back. I famously tweeted in his first game in the first half when he looked horrible that he looked shot, and I think it was freezing cold takes that got me on that one. But at times he has looked shot, and at no more times than in the red zone. And I know AFC teams don't want the Pittsburgh Steelers to find another recipe for how to be even better. But if I was Mike Tomlin, I would lean into getting Justin Fields on the field a little bit more, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, get him some packages, some plays. You saw what he could do against the Ravens in a gotta-have-it moment. He slid a little bit too early on the one play, but they're able to hold on and win that game. And in the red zone, his legs would make them a little bit more dangerous, where you're right. They kind of run into a wall, and they're kicking field goals left and right. It was enough today to win, but in those matchups down the road, especially come playoff time, you need to be able to score touchdowns and not settle for field goals.
I don't want you to settle for anything on game days, Bills Mafia. So I want you to head over to Tops Friendly Markets, get yourself hooked up. It's Slider Sunday every Sunday at Tops Friendly Markets. And you can have it your way with King's Hawaiian at Tops. Every Sunday is an opportunity to enjoy delicious sliders made your way. And now you can win big while doing it. Vote for your favorite slider weekly for a chance to win tickets to the big game. Grab your favorite King's Hawaiian products from Tops and craft the ultimate sliders to make your Sunday even more special. Visit topsmarkets.com/Slider Sunday. Ryan Talbot, final thought.
Final thought: Bills win another one. They are 9-2, exceeding all expectations. Enjoy the bye week, Bills Mafia. It's going to be a fun end to the regular season.
For Ryan Talbot, I am Matt Parrino. We'll have one episode, at least maybe two next week on the bye week. It's going to be a little bit quiet as we recharge the batteries a little bit, but we'll be back raring to go. Week of the San Francisco 49ers. Big show at Turning Stone Resort Casino on November 30th. Get it in your calendar. Head out to Verona, New York. We can't wait. We will see you soon, everybody. Enjoy this one. Take care.